always loved interviewing people for projects and just felt like something especially clicked when I was doing it behind the camera and meeting real folks out in the world and getting to know them. And so that was kind of in the back of my mind. And as I was continuing to work in tech, I felt a pull to go back towards those journalistic roots that I had originally wanted to explore in my undergraduate degree. And through a journey of researching what being a journalist would actually be like and talking to a lot of mentors in the tech space that actually come from journalist backgrounds, I had all of these kind of moments happen over a year period that pointed to documentary film, which was very surprising because that was never a dream or idea in my head until that time. Like, I really did not know that people did that as a career, which is silly to think back on now. At least when you're applying for jobs in tech, there's so many jobs out there, or at that time there were at least, that say you don't get a few, at least you're getting interviews and you know there's a job around the corner. Whereas what I quickly learned is that jobs in the doc field were really rarely filled from applications, but more from networking. So that was one of my first big realizations of just that absolutely crucial part of the documentary filmmaking career is who you know, who you want to work with, who you want to create with. I think that coming out to LA, it's so much about getting on the first project, meeting people. Who do you vibe with? Who do you want to build with again? They go off on a project, maybe they bring you on with it. You go out for a project, maybe you bring them along with you on that. And I think that for me, one of the reasons why I'm so excited for something like Be Seen is that I think that organic part of networking in film will never go away, but I think that having something that is streamlined and accessible can act as a catalyst to making those types of connections.
How many jobs would you say you've gotten through a connection that you've made versus like actually applying to the job?
I would say 90% of them.
That you've gotten from connections.
From connections. I think I view myself as a lifelong learner, so I recognize that my voice and my interests will continue to change. And I think that one way I found my voice is really trying to learn from others and like watching a lot of films and reading a lot about the industry and making things, like being behind the camera, being out in the world. And I think the more you make things, the more you work with other people, the more you learn what interests you the most and what isn't of interest to you. So I think it's really through both like committing to getting that hands-on experience to things, but then also continuing to watch things, because there's the documentary. I mean, I'm a documentary filmmaker because I love documentary films. And so continuing to watch them, both the old and new films, is really important. What makes it really, I think, worthwhile and meaningful is that you really don't know what's ahead. Like, I could meet someone on something like Be Seen, or meet someone working on another project, and they could introduce me to a story that I would have never ever thought of before. And that excitement and uncertainty is really profound. And I think that that's what makes our jobs so special and unique, is that you really don't know what's around the corner. One of my advisors in graduate school gave such a good piece of advice of just don't be afraid to ask questions and don't be afraid to reach out to filmmakers, producers, DPs, researchers, whatever your role is within the industry that you're interested in pursuing, to reach out to folks that you admire or the work that you really liked. Because I think I've been really surprised by the sincerity and kindness that people have shown in responding to cold emails about hopping on a phone call. And you might not go work for that person, but they will give you the validation, the encouragement, a new lesson that you can carry into your own work. And so I think just really don't be afraid to put yourself out there, because it's one of the industries that you really can't wait for something to happen to you. You kind of have to go out and do something, whether it's making those phone calls or getting behind the camera or being out in the world to find the stories that you want to tell. Always be ready to learn and pay attention to other people on set, because don't just pay attention to the role that you are, because it's such a collaborative process that knowing what other folks do is really helpful and will make you a better gaffer, a better sound recordist, a better director.